about yielding, which is this beautiful, hold on, let me click one more thing. I'm still hearing some people, so I'm just going to make sure we have everybody muted. Okay. So I've been thinking a lot about what Donna Fari has taught me over time in regard to yielding. It's this concept of being able to kind of slip into the stream of what we're experiencing at any moment in time instead of having resistance to that. And I think it shows up a lot. And if we practice in our physical body, if we're able to kind of work with this skill through our practice and develop this capacity for yielding in our physical body, we can take it out into our mind and therefore out into the world. So, just quickly what yielding is, it's this balance point between collapsing, so think about how you've been reacting to all the stress of the past month. Have you been kind of like, ugh, I can't do it. I'm not getting out of bed. I'm, just that sinking feeling. And let's remind ourselves that we all do a little bit of all of this. Nobody lives in one place or the other. But notice those times when you've just been like slumped, where your body is slumped, where your mind is slumped. You can't get creative. You can't get solution-based. You shut yourself off. Depression lives here. This is a hopeless state in the body and mind. And then the opposite, the pendulum swing to the other is propping yourself up, like Rosie the Riveter. I can do this. I got this. Go, and push. And maybe not give yourself an opportunity to even feel what you're feeling, but to just live in that hyperdrive of the nervous system state where you're pushing constantly forward. I've noticed that I've been a little bit more there than I've been in the retreat, mostly from necessity. But where do you live in that pendulum swing? Do you tend to collapse and give up, or do you tend to kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps in not such a good way, where like you're just tensing yourself so as not to feel the arrows that are coming at you? So this is the difference between that swing between collapsing and propping, and yielding lives somewhere right in the middle. And always we're trying to seek the middle way. This is the way, the middle way. And so in our practice today, we're going to do a lot around yielding, and we're going to slow down a bunch. So if you had the idea that you had to get your sweat on for this class, give it up and be here now, because we're going to move a little slower. We're not going to not move, but we're going to move a little slower, a little more gently than we sometimes do, to give ourselves the medium to swim in, to find this sense of yielding in our bodies. So yielding happens with breathing. If that sense of propping and the sense of collapsing, breath doesn't live on those planes very well. When we go to the extremes, breath lives really well in the center. So that's where the first and foremost tool that we need to learn to yield in the body is to learn to stay with the breath. And then the other thing that really helps us stay from a collapsed state or a prop state is to notice the fluidity of our joints. And when we lock out joints, we tend to prop, and when we lean into joints that collapsed, we tend to overstrain both. In either way, we tend to overstrain our ligaments, tendons, joint capsules, things like that. So yielding really happens when we breathe and when we keep our joints free. So just try to keep those thoughts in your mind when you're practicing. Okay, so take your time for a moment, come into a comfortable seat, close your eyes, and find your way into some ease. So you can lie down or stand up or sit in a different way or sit on a chair. You're probably you are in your house, so maybe you got something to sit on if you prefer versus the floor. So let's just take a moment to settle and soften. And discover your breathing here. Just see what it feels like to come into what your breath is right now. And let's remember that yielding is a place we're trying to lean into. It is not a static state. And we also need to have compassion and kindness for ourselves. when we collapse and when we prop, because these are also ways that we're trying to cope. So lose the expectations that you must be a certain way. Accept all. And for this moment, just accept what you're feeling. How is your body in space? Is your breath easily coming in and out, or not so much? Can you melt through your eyes, your jaw? All right, let's just take a moment to place our palms at our heart. Try to melt your heart a little bit. This is also a piece of the yielding, compassion, the melted heart, the open melted heart, where vulnerability and the balance between joy and suffering, that edge lives. This is part of yielding too. So open the heart space, bow in, and connect. What is it that you need? If you've been living, vacillating between collapsing and propping yourself up, how can a state of yielding give you grace to cope and deal, be present? Let's relax our hands. Let's lie down on our back. All right, so find your breath. Just get used to being horizontal for a moment. Stretch out your knees. You can wag your legs around a little bit. So swish, swish, toes moving toward each other, toes moving away from each other. Just let your legs wobble. And then find some stillness. Notice where you're connecting with the floor. Can you feel the weight of the body? Maybe scan from your crown to your tail. Can you feel the weight of the back of your head? Where do you feel your shoulder blades touching the floor? Can you sink there? Is there connection? Where do you feel the ground underneath your arms? Maybe into the backs of the hands. Can you feel any part of your spine touching the ground? That might be harder because your pelvis and your shoulder blades take up a little broader space. So just notice if the mid-back tends to have a touch point with the spine on the floor. Notice where the spine doesn't touch the floor. And then come down to the pelvis. Feel the weight. Can you feel your sacrum, your hips, anywhere you feel the back of your pelvis touching the ground? The spread of the back of your thighs, your calves, all the way down into your heels. So all the places you're making contact, see if you can get a little heavier and drop. Okay, and then we're going to just warm up how we normally do. So stretch the arms up overhead, maybe pendiculate a little bit where you're reaching one side and then reaching the other side, kind of going back and forth between the two sides of your body. Stay with the breath. All right, and then let's bring our arms down, bring your knees up into the chest and rock a little bit here. And just notice where the impact shifts through your pelvis, through your shoulder blades, your spine, as you rock from one side to the other. And then steady yourself, pull your knees apart from each other and swing them back in. Go on any trajectory of a circle that feels good to you. You don't have to have full circles. You can just kind of do a swing out and in. And just let your hip joints move how they want to move, what feels natural. All right, and then right knee in, left leg long. Open up the ankles and the feet. Give your feet a little awakeness. And Change sides, left knee in, roll out through your feet again, right leg is straight. All right, and then let's turn this into a full body stretch. So arms and legs wide on the floor, take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, hug in, knees into the chest, head up, like a lying down cat-cow. One more time, full body. Exhale, draw in. Let's roll over onto our side and come up onto our hands and our knees. And start to move through some cat-cows, just letting your spine find its way. Okay, so dropping your spine down, tailbone up, head up, then lifting your spine up, dropping your head and tail down. Feel free to move slowly, quickly. Make sure you're breathing. Feel free to spin anything you want to spin. So if you want to turn and sway from side to side, or do some pelvic circles, kind of freeing up your sacrum, your low back a little bit, to see what kind of movement your body's calling for. Just come home. Let this be playful, and a sense of just exploring. Are you breathing? So already start to connect the breath to your movements. See if you can commit to steady, full breaths, no matter what your body's doing. All right, and then stretch back to child's pose. Settle your hips toward the heels. Arms can be down at your sides or up overhead, whatever feels good to you. Let's open the sides a little bit. So walking to one side, hands over to one side. Settle the hips down. Feel the base of your skull soften. Enjoy the breath here. Enjoy the space for the breath here. And oh, here's my kitty cat. She came to do yoga with us today. And then go ahead and find your way over to the other side. Find a sense of softness through the base of the skull. Drop the pelvis down. Deep breaths in and away. All right, and then come back to center. Come up onto all fours. Lift an arm up, either one. Slide that arm down. Feel the other hand press into the floor a bit, just giving yourself some stability. Open up the back lung fields. Feel the shoulder blades spread apart. Make sure the head is relaxed. The base of the skull is soft. And then inhale and lift that arm up. Place the hand down onto the ground and change sides. Lifting and softening down. Enjoy. Do you have a preference? Do you like twisting one direction more than the other in the body? Just notice. Great, and then come back up. We're going to come to lie down on your belly. So you can choose any variation. You can have your head turned with your arm up like this, to either side, or you can have your forehead on your hands. So whatever feels good to you. I'm just going to take a moment to enjoy being on your belly. So as you do this, I'm turning my head just so that you can hear my voice a little bit better, but if you want to have your head straight down, that's fine too. And I just want you to notice again, where do you yield into the floor? Where do you make contact? Can you feel the tops of your feet? Can you feel your knees? Can you feel the thighs? Do you notice your pelvis touching the floor anywhere? How about your belly? Your chest, your ribs, your sternum? Depending on your arms, where do you feel your arms touching the ground, your head touching the ground? And make sure you're comfortable, so adjust to anything you need. You can always put a blanket under your belly to give you a little bit of lift if your low back is bothering you. And let's first start noticing how the breath feels. Can you feel as though the spine is like driftwood floating on the sea of your breath?
Can you notice where the spine moves when you inhale? Where the spine moves as you exhale? You might notice, might not, but you might notice that the spine expands to your crown and your tail as you breathe in. It kind of settles back into the center as you exhale. Is there any part of you that you're not giving to the earth?
We're going to come back into child's pose. Take your time. And you can spend a lot of time doing what we just did, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to have us move. Come back to child's pose. And then I want you to sit on up. So this could be different for different people. You could sit on your heels like I'm doing. You could sit cross-legged. You could sit on the edge of a blanket. So however you're most comfortable, to be in a seated posture for a moment. Okay. So just find the spine. Feel that sense of lifting upward without propping. So even here, can you start to feel the difference between a collapse, everybody sink down and collapse, versus a prop, where you're just trying to push your spine away from the earth, away from gravity? And then find something right in the middle, where there's a hint of both living in the center. Take a deep breath and notice the breath guides you there a little bit better. I'm going to move into your left hand. We'll start with the left. I just want you to put your hand next to you for a moment and put your pressure, your body weight into your hand a little bit. And just notice our two different ways. We can collapse, where we kind of lock our joints and sink like we're in a hammock, right? Where we're just sinking. Or we can push and prop. This is like the push-push, okay? So we get the sense that we're pushing the floor away and trying to extend a whole lot. Now, what would it feel like to have something right in the middle, where we give to the earth, and then we rebound by pushing just a little bit to move through our joint spaces? So notice when you push into the hand, that your tissues, your bones, everything compresses, that there's a sense of condensement and compression, and that when we push off, there's a sense of extension and length. And see if you can keep the bones tethered in between those two, where we have the sense of stability and compression, but even as we lift off and push off our hands, can you feel the energy move through the joint spaces? So through the palm, into the wrist, elbow, and shoulder. And then see if you can just be steady without, the push-pull movement. Just steady yourself here. What would it feel like to have the balance of yielding and pushing? Just a little bit of give and take, where neither force is overpowering the other. Chances are your elbow's not locked out if you're doing this. Chances are your shoulder's a little bit mobile, okay? Lock things out and just notice the difference. All right, and then let's relax that. You can open up your arm a little bit, and we're gonna come to the other side. So same thing, collapse, sink, okay? And then feel the push. We're trying to push ourselves off the floor, like, we don't want the floor anymore. We're denying the floor. Okay? This is that sense of collapse and prop. This is the prop, this is the collapse. And now just see what it would feel like to feel your body weight move down into the earth. Feel the compression that happens around that giving to the earth, to sinking. And then the pushing off, where it kind of rebounds through your joints and bones. It doesn't get locked out into a hole that is a prop, but it's a give and take. And so you may find through your practice today that we move these subtle ways. There's a little micro movement within our postures to give ourselves the give and take, to yield into the earth and to feel what that yield gives us as we push off the earth from a yield. So feel the difference between pushing off the earth without a yield and then find the yield and push off the earth at the same time. So what I feel is a deeper connection with the earth below me. I feel a deeper connection from my sternum to my wrists than when I collapse or prop. So just notice what you feel in your body. And then relax. And we're going to just kind of go back and forth. So feel free to roll out your wrists. And we're just going to kind of go back and forth. So I want you to push off one hand and come into the earth and push off the other hand. So there's a give. We have to give to the earth. It's like the difference when you jump on concrete versus when you jump on grass or take a walk on concrete. You know, I'm sure everybody's had this feeling of having their legs hurt after walking in a museum versus going for a walk in the park. So when there's something that yields below us, our joints are better able to receive. So make sure you're breathing as you go back and forth between the two sides. So your joints can bend a little bit. There's a give and there's a take. And now incorporate the breath. How can you let that yielding travel through to the spine, the shoulder blades, instead of just living in the arms? Do you have the capacity to yield a little better with one than the other? Now we're going to add some upward movement with the opposite arm. So kind of finding your way. And you can find your own pace. So this is my natural pace, but perhaps you go faster and have a little bit more speed. Perhaps maybe you go much, much slower. But see if you can find that transition from one side of your body to the other as you yield and reach into the other side. I told you it'd be a little different kind of class, so hopefully you're feeling patient today. All right, and then relax. Shoulders up, shoulders away. Let's come on to all fours, okay? Feel free to roll out your wrists, wiggle through your hands if you need some extension. Always, you can come down onto your forearms if your wrists are bothering you. Okay, you can also take fists onto the ground, so whatever is working for you. And now let's see if we can find this. So find the push, the prop. So push away, push, push. This would be push, push instead of yield, push, where we just find the push away from the floor. We're denying the floor. We're saying no to the floor. Okay? And now say yes to the floor. Give a little bit. Find the yielding where you're giving and taking. There's a yes and there's a receiving. Okay, so you're giving to the earth and you're receiving back. So even though we're trying to extend our torso and extend our arms, we're not locking out. And you can imagine this in a plank, even though our knees are down onto the ground. Can you feel the slight micro bend in the elbows? Can you imagine, and let's see if we can go from left hand to right hand so that you have some yielding into one and a push off and a yielding into the other and a push off. And what happens? Can you feel that there's a relationship between the shoulder blades and the palms? Can you let the shoulder blade give to the hand to the earth? Can the earth give to the hand to the shoulder blade? And find that transition from one side to the other. And if you're feeling like you're struggling with finding the yielding, go into the prop, push off. So push, push. Deny the floor, say no to the floor, and then feel a collapse. Say no to the rest of, trying to get away. You're only sinking. Okay, so notice the extreme of either of those and the sense of yielding in between. And now let's add the legs into this. So you can, feel that you have a solid base in your 4 points, your knees and your hands, and maybe rocking through one to the next, maybe kind of going
left hand, left knee, right hand, left hand, left knee, right hand, or going the other direction, or any way that you feel good. Maybe you want to yield into left knee and left hand at the same time, and then give over to the other side and yield into right hand and right knee at the same time. And just notice, how do you find stability, strength, and at the same time suppleness and freedom? This is what yielding's all about, is this balance that we're constantly talking about in yoga, of the balance between effort and ease, of stability and freedom. Okay. All right, now let's sink back toward child's pose. Roll out your wrists, give your wrists a little bit of a break. If child's pose isn't good for you, then you can do something different. Let's come into a lunge. We'll just give our hands a little bit of a break. If you want blocks, you can take blocks. Right foot is going to come forward. Left leg is going to come back. Extend the heart open and curl your back toes under. So we're going to come up and off the knee a little bit in a moment. So feel the extension. It's very easy, I think, if you put your hands on your knee, to feel collapse in this, to just sink, and kind of hang in your ligaments. And it's also kind of easy to find the prop. So as we hug our front heel and back knee toward each other, which is a good stabilizing thing to do, but can you do it so much that you're just feeling like you're lifting off the earth, denying the earth? So find that yielding here. Can you give into your knee and your foot? Can you find that rebound? So a lot of times when I really practice the effort and ease of yielding, I find myself oscillating just a little bit, where I'm giving and taking, and sometimes it quiets into no external movement and it's more of an internal sense, but sometimes I let it be, like if you see me now, I'm kind of moving a little bit. So feel free to make this active in the body or just much more subtle, you decide. Okay. Now we're going to put our hands back down onto the blocks, curl your toe under if it got flat again, and we're going to go back and forth. We do this all the time to warm up. So what would it feel like to give, to bend the back knee now, to give into that back foot and back knee, and then push off to give into the front foot. So just kind of going back and forth, to give into the earth and push off the earth, to give into the earth and push off the earth. So instead of push, push, we have yield, push. So give first and let the earth give back. So it's almost like, I'm sure you've all had the experience of that, keep going. We've all had the experience of standing up and falling back into someone's arms that catches us. And if you are stuck and not moving when you catch someone, that's a whole lot more force than if you give and catch them and bounce them back. Okay, so if you're the one falling, you're kind of giving and taking. So just imagine that kind of action in the body. Okay. And then walk your back foot forward and come into Uttanasana. Bend your knees, wag the tail, loosening your spine. Finding the breath. Let's push off the feet, rise up, open things up. Exhale, give back to the earth and come forward. Halfway lift, hands can be on something, extending the spine and legs. Exhale and give back to the earth. Let's put our left foot forward, our right knee onto the floor. Come on up like we did on the other side. Put your hands on your knee. Feel the collapse. Feel the prop. Notice, for me in particular, I don't know about you, but for me in particular, when I prop, I don't breathe. I hold my breath. So just notice if that's the case for you. If you tend to grip the breath in the collapse or the prop, and let's find the yield. So what would it feel like to give to the earth with your knee and your foot, to let the earth give back to you? So befriend your relationship with gravity and the earth. All of our yoga postures are here to give us a sense of pranic flow in our bodies, energy flow in our bodies. So this is just yet one more way where we get to feel energy exchange within us and around us. So what would it feel like to be still now? To feel that hugging of front heel and back knee, but having it be where there's still a little give and take with the breath. And then release the hands down onto the ground. Back toes are going to curl under, and we're going to go back and forth. So when you straighten your front leg a little bit, and it does never have to go all the way straight, bend your back knee. So you can kind of push off your foot and come into the front, and then push off your front to come into the back. Okay, so you get to find your space. Just see what it feels like to give into the back leg, to drop into the back knee and the back foot and push off, to have the yield push between the two legs. Can you find that connection passing through the pelvis? Just like you were finding the connection passing through your shoulder blades, can you find now the connection from the push yield on one leg to the other, passing through the pelvis? How are you breathing? Find a sense of steadiness. Now we're going to put our knee down onto the floor, bring our hands down onto the ground. So one more time before we come into a full plank, just see what it feels like to give to the earth with your hands instead of just trying to deny the earth and prop yourself away. And then see what it would feel like to take your feet up, or feet back, knees up in the air. So a lot of times when we come into a pose like a plank, we think, oh, we're just gonna muscle through it, like, right? So that takes our breath away. Notice if your elbows are locked, have a little micro bend. Notice if your shoulder blades are stuck. See if you can stabilize, but have fluidity. Is there yielding? Can you give to the earth through your hands? Can you feel that connection to the shoulder blades? And if you can't, put your knees down until you can. And then everybody put your knees down. And let's come back onto our belly. Take a moment. Feel the spine be the driftwood bubbling on the breath. And then bring your hands closer to the shoulders, and we're going to lift up into Cobra Pose. So once again, can you give and take from the earth? Can you feel the give into the hands? The shoulders are soft. Are you going just enough where you feel that your body is finding fluidity and openness without going to the extremes? So the propping tends to pull our rubber bands tight, tight, tight. So notice if you go to your, oh, I'm gonna go to the highest place I can go, chances are your breath is not there with you. Chances are your joints are locked out and you've lost your yielding. So find the place that's right for you. And then go ahead and come back down. Up onto all fours. Wiggle the spine around, any kind of movement that's gonna free you up. So it can be some circles through the pelvis. It can be moving back to child's pose, whatever you find. And then as you're ready, find dog pose. Spread out the hands and the feet. Feel free to take your time pedaling here, dropping a heel, just seeing what feels good. And then once you find yourself, can you yield? So often when we're trying to stretch and open ourselves up, we can move into propping, or perhaps in your practice, you're like, I don't feel like doing dog pose. I don't have the strength or stamina for it. And so you tend to, kind of collapse and sink. So just notice where your tendencies live, and can you find the yield? So discover the breath over and over. Discover your breathing. Can you give to the hands? Can you push off the hands, that yield push to give to the feet? Can you move back and forth? Are your elbows pliable? Are you supple? Are your knees soft? Is your breath moving you? Maybe sink into the left hand and the left foot, and then rebound into the right hand and the right foot. And just notice how you sink and how you push off. Is there yielding within this, or instead of just lock, 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 left, right, left, right? Give yourself more subtlety, suppleness, breath. Then yield into all 4 points. Feel that giving into the earth and the rebound through your spine, your legs. And then walk your feet forward and come into Uttanasana. Wag your tail as much as you want. Bobble your head, relax your shoulders. We've spent a lot of time on our hands already. Inhale and rise all the way up. Arms can come up. And then release your arms down. All right, so let's take a moment on our feet now to feel this steadiness of yielding. All right, so when we are here, let's just bounce a little bit. Just let things loosen. Okay, you can you don't have to leave the floor, but just let your body bounce. Notice if there's any joint that doesn't like this. Are you guarding anywhere? And if so, bounce less. Let the be more of a vibration. All right, and then soften your body into stillness. And let's see what yielding through your feet might feel like. Okay, so you can take your feet hip width apart, and perhaps you want to notice your connection with the earth with one foot and then the other. Are you breathing? Are your knees soft? So now the joint right above our yielding space, so our ankles and our knees are the ones we want to pay attention to a lot. Perhaps you want to yield into the toes and heels. Just notice. How is your connection to the earth? All right, and then let's pause here for a moment. Stillness. Give into all 4 points of your feet, so let your entirety of your foot sink, both feet. Yield into the earth. Give back. So you might even find yourself having that slight sink and rebound, as if you are about to push off the floor to jump up, but so much more subtle than that. How's your breath? Can you feel this traveling through your spine? How is the crown of your head impacted by the weight of your feet? So sink into your feet and feel the rebound all the way through to your crown. Try not to push. So let's push for a minute just so we feel the difference. So prop away from the floor. Try to lift your spine like there's a hook on your head, the crown, lifting you, like someone's lifting you off the earth. Okay. And that sense of up, up, up. And then feel the sense of collapse. Okay, drop, sink, and this may not be natural, like we may not walk around like this, but we certainly walk around like this. Like a lot of people push either 2 hips forward or 1 hip forward or 1 hip out to the side or cross your arms, like all the ways that we kind of lock ourselves into a standing posture, whatever that is for you. What would it feel like to be so active in your relationship with the earth? So the knees are soft. The pelvis is neutral and receptive. The breath is soft. The belly is receptive. You can feel that moving from your feet to the crown. Back to your feet, back through the crown. Notice how if you lock out your joints, you can't feel this. So try, lock out your knees, push your knees back. And try to do it again. You lose your rebound. You lose that sense of being able to communicate the earth's energy all the way through to your crown. Okay, now we're going to move a little bit through this. So this may look differently for everybody. I want you to sink into 1 foot, come up, sink into your other foot. You can be really wide-legged with this. You can move your arms like I'm doing. Your arms can be very steady and not move very much. But I just want you to give into one leg, give into, this always reminds me of Karate Kid, right? Like that totally Zen move he does in the end. That what gives him the capacity to do that is this yielding. Okay, so what do you want to be? What do you want to do? Are your feet coming off the floor, or are they just moving into weight in one side and the other? Notice it through your torso. Let your body move, so close your eyes. You don't have to look at me, you can look at me. But just give into the left and give into the right. And just notice how that feels. Where is the direction of energy moving you when you move from one leg to the other? When you have that sense of giving yourself to the earth and receiving something back. Are you breathing? And then find steadiness again. We're going to take our legs wider on our mat. Sometimes when you play with unusual patterns, like, this isn't a typical yoga practice, this is the joy of being home alone in your house, right? Like you don't have to feel self-conscious. Just let yourself really explore what it feels like to sink. Okay, so we're going to move through some lunging here. So we're going to give and then let that rebound through the body into the other side. So we do this a lot in yoga, kind of moving from the two sides. I want you to do whatever you want with your upper body. So whatever's coming naturally, maybe it's total stillness. Maybe it's a lot of fluidity. Maybe one leg comes all the way straight. Maybe you don't ever go all the way straight. Okay, just see what it feels like to sink into one side and feel yourself push off. So sometimes we can forget the push off. So as you drop in, your other foot is pushed off. So push off that foot to give to the other side. Push off that foot to give to the other side. And just see what it feels like to transition between the two hemispheres of your body. Okay, now we're going to come to evenness. And you can come into a less wide or a super wide squat, whatever's comfortable for your knees. And I want you to just be able to sustain this. So be in a place that you can be for a few breaths. Have the hips move back, so femur bones drawing back into the hip joints. Spread open the bones of your feet so you can feel the floor. And then maybe here, just a little into the left, a little into the right. And then what does it feel like to give into both? To sink into the earth, to rebound. To sink into the earth, to rebound. How's your breath? Are you guided by your breath? Now when we come up to stand, I want you to go so slow so you can feel where the rebound comes from to push yourself up to stand. Arms up overhead. Let's swing back to the front of your mat for a dog pose. Extend through the spine. Can you feel that sense of giving into the earth? And let the spinal extension come from the rebound from your hands, the rebound from your feet. So try to be less mechanical and more energetic. What does it feel like to feel energy moving through loose joints and soft breath? The earth has so much to share with us. We are of the earth, so let yourself feel part of the earth. Okay, let's come forward into a plank. Shoulders are over your wrists. If you tend to be very push-push in this, what does push-yield feel like? Can you connect shoulder blades to hands in that push-yield? Is your core supportive, but still mobile with breath? You can even feel the center of your body, even though it's not touching the floor. Can you feel the give and take? All right, let's put your knees down. Sink back to child's pose and then push off your knees to come forward, lifting your heart. So this is kind of like not a full back bend, but kind of just vacillating back and forth. So push off your hands back to your hips. Push off your knees back to your heart. When you do this, are your elbows soft? Are you able to stay in neutral, soft, free joints? as you kind of pandiculate back and forth between a back bend and a forward bend. So it's kind of like think of like a cat-cow more extreme. Especially when you come forward, so I hope you're moving with your breath. When you come forward to lift the chest and drop the pelvis a little bit, are you hanging in your shoulders? Can you bend your elbows a little bit? Push, yield, push. Find that back and forth. One more time. Are you push yielding? And then come back and hang out in child's pose. Arms can be down, arms can be up. If you are able to make contact with the floor with your forehead, that's awesome. You can give to the floor with your forehead too. Is your spine still able to bobble on the breath a little bit? All right, let's come up on all fours. Find that sense of yielding. Bring your feet forward. Soften and give yourself over. Inhale for a halfway lift. So when you do that, rebound away from the earth, extending. Exhale, melting again, giving yourself over to the earth. One more time. Pushing off the earth. Exhale, yielding into the earth. Come all the way up to stand. So find the right place for your spine as you push off your legs and rise up. Lifting your arms to the sky and then trace down. Center line of the body, palms together. Pause, yield here. So Tadasana is such a worthy place to live in for a while. Yield your feet. See if you can sink without collapse. See what it feels like to not prop yourself up onto a locked joint. So unlock every joint in your body. Are your toes unlocked, your ankles, your knees? How do your femur bones feel? Are they settled loosely in your hip joints? Even your pubic symphysis, your sacroiliac joints, is there space? Travel up the spine, feel some freedom, let yourself lift without a prop. Are the shoulder blades free and mobile? Do your arms have some capacity to swing easily? Are your hands free? Wiggle around your head, be a bubble thingy, whatever those little toys are, just bobble your head a little bit. And then take a deep breath into that yielding, soft joints. Give to the earth, feel the earth give all the way back, all the way through your crown. Let the earth give you energy. Think of it, like this breath, the simple breath of inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale with the earth. All right. Inhale, lift up away from the earth. Exhale, give yourself back to the earth. Okay, we're going to come sideways on our mat. So you just put whatever foot back and turn so that you're facing front. We're going to move again into this yielding, but we're going to turn it into a little bit more traditional yoga postures. So as we come into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2, just see what it feels like to be in space. Now you may want to move a little bit and vacillate a little bit with the breath. Can you give into the right foot and then transfer that through the pelvis into the other foot? Do your arms, where do they want to be? What gives you the greatest capacity to feel that you're giving and taking from the earth? Notice how different this feels. So try the propping. Push your back leg straight. Push into the floor. Lift your spine. Stretch into your hands. This is often how we tend to strive in our postures. So can you have that shape, but have the yielding living in the shape? The softness in the joints, the breath moving through your body, prana, energy moving through your body. Okay, and then come on up. Let's relax the arms down, turn your feet the other way. So a lot of times we can feel the lockout not just in our knees, but in our pelvis. So when you come into this pose, If you push real hard and try to have your pelvis pointing straight instead of turned a little bit, you can get caught in this push-pull. So even though we want our leg to be straightish, try not to push the knee back and slam it. Try not to push really hard on the femur bone. If you slightly internally rotate the femur bone, soften the knee, the pelvis will have a little bit more space, a little bit more freedom. So find just the right place for you to be. And then what would it feel like to vacillate between your two legs? Give into the back foot, push off your back foot into your front. Back and forth. Feeling that crossover between the pelvis. Shoulders soft. Maybe your arms want to be doing something totally different than this. Where is yielding in your body? Find it. All right, and then straighten your legs. Turn your feet forward. Come down with straight legs, soft knees. Put your arms wherever you want them to be. And we're going to come back. Bending your right knee a little bit, sinking in, and then coming off and sinking into the left. Finding that sense of, we're not bouncing off the earth. So the yield connects us to the earth as we push off. So we're not just a ball bouncing off the earth. We are much more connected, and we stay rooted even when we push off. That yielding gives us the echo of rootedness into the earth that sustains us. So back and forth with breath. Let's transition one more time to dog pose. Finding your breath here. Yielding. How do the shoulders feel different when you give softness to the elbows and sink the palms, the yield push instead of the push? Same with your knees. What happens when you lock your knees back? What happens when you bend your knees a little bit? Can you feel the breath traveling through the spine, the yielding from your hands traveling through your spine? And let's bring our right foot forward, come to a lunge. Back knee is going to stay off the floor this time. Come on up. Okay. Same thing, we often strive, right? Like, let's go deep and let's go high and let's go far. All right, so see if you can find just the sweet spot where you're in space comfortably, where you can give into the 2 feet. You can feel a little push off your back foot to give to the front and vice versa. That sense of transmission through the pelvis. And same with the upper body. Can you stabilize the spine and give the spine to the hands instead of pulling at your shoulder joints? Connect the hands to the pelvis. Connect the pelvis to the feet. Find your breath. Loose, soft joints. Soften the back knee a little bit. And then exhale and walk your back foot forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale and melt step your other foot back. Find yourself coming to crescent lunge here. The back knee can bend as much as you want to. So sometimes straightening can push us into propping. So if you know you tend to be a propper by nature, your job is to really kind of find your support through loose joints, through breath. If you tend to be a collapser, your job is to find stability through the breath. Okay? That the joints, the muscles can still hug on to the bones, even without locking out a joint. So we're still exerting a lot of muscular energy, but we're not letting it block the transmission through our bones. Deep breaths, feel the yielding. Connect the feet to the pelvis, to the hands. Try not to just yank your arms up. Make sure the tether between the base of the pelvis and the hands are intact. How is your breath? Soften your joints. And then release your hands. Come back onto all fours. Feel that sense of giving into the hands, giving into the knees, transitioning. And we're going to come down. You can come into a plank and come down from that if you want, or you can just find your way back onto our belly. Deep breath in, deep breaths away. Feel the spine bubble like driftwood on waves of the breath. We're going to flip over onto our back. Feet are wide on the floor. Let's windshield wiper left and right. Even through here, where's the energy coming from to pick your knees back up? Okay, can you feel the pelvis and the core be what grounds into the earth to pick yourself back up? Just find the easiness of this. All right. Bring the knees into the chest. Rock around a little bit, left and right. Perhaps you want to come fuller into happy baby. You don't have to. Just find whatever's working for your body. And then as we come into Shavasana, take your time to prop yourself well. So if lying on the floor flat doesn't work for your back, grabbing a blanket or something, a roll to put underneath your knees can be really great. And in particular, this might feel great. You can also put your shins up on your couch, kind of like a halfway point between leg up the wall pose and Shavasana. Once you find where you're going to be in space, just drop into your comfort here. Practice the art of giving yourself over to the earth. Is there a place where you're not easily giving yourself over? Our propping energy is one of control. It's one of, I'll do it my way, my way, my way. I can do it alone, right? And this doesn't serve us usually, not very well anyway. So what can you soften and give to the earth to hold for you? Can you give something up? As you loosen the body, come into the breath again. Soft face. Now notice if even just the breath can be your yield action. Can you feel yourself expanding on the inhale, receiving? And on the exhale, can you give? That sense of yielding into the earth and expanding away from the earth can be found even just in the breath, especially in the breath. Allow your whole body to receive your breathing, like your whole body is doing the breathing. You're allowing yourself to take up your full energy body. Keep staying with that sense of giving to the earth fully on your exhales, receiving from the earth fully on your inhales.
So if you've drifted away, just come back, practicing the art of giving yourself to the earth, yielding to the earth. Loose joints, full breath. And as you inhale, receive, let your whole energy body receive, not just your nose taken in the air, but your whole body receive prana from the earth.